This one lady told my sister that works with her that we've been knowing her. She's like,
Hey,
yeah.
everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the
Hey.
Original Blueprint Podcast.
Hey, everybody.
So, tonight we are going to be talking about the cosmic laws of awareness.
Yes.
And this is something that we've been talking about on Clubhouse for like the last, I don't know, I guess like week or so. But as we've been reading them, we're finding out so much more about what we already thought to be true. It's like confirmation for us, but also some of them are just so good. We wanted to share them with you guys because these are things that, normal people do not talk about. But if we had this information years ago, our perception of life in general would be absolutely different. So we want to share them with you guys. So I know we had a few that we really loved, and I know, do you want to talk about the ones that like hit us the hardest first? Or should I give like a little let me give a little overview of them.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I came across this reading. I guess it's a book. I found the PDF version of it, and it's called The Cosmic Laws of Cosmic Awareness. And the introduction basically goes over, like, I'll read the first paragraph. It just says, to those who come in contact with the universal laws of cosmic awareness for the first time, the following 3 questions may be relevant. What are universal laws? What is cosmic awareness? And who or what is capable of formulating these laws? And then the introduction goes through that. And it really introduces what they are. But I mean, it's long, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. If you guys do want to read it, though, I can link it. I could probably link it in my Instagram if anybody wanted to go and like check that out. But some of them, for instance, like the first one is the universal law. That was like the very first one. Then it talks about the law of love, the law of mercy, the law of gratitude, the law of one. Like there are tons and tons of these in here. But I don't know, Tangini, do you want to talk about the one that hit you the hardest first? Because I know that a lot of them were like, what?
Yeah. But you know what? When I thought about it, when you just said that, the one that hit me the most, I don't know if we should go into that one yet. Do you think so?
Yeah, why not? And then we'll branch off from there.
Yeah, because the law of poverty.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying. So we could probably wait for that one. But one that really stuck with me too, though, is the law of relativity. That stuck with me.
So let me see. Let me see what page that's on, and then we can reread it.
And it's so funny because these are actual like laws, and there's so many of them. But you know what? Like when you just said it was the universal laws, and then it ends up with the law of the universe too, right?
Yeah, it was the law, the universal law, and then the law of the universe was the last one.
Wow.
And then I know that the ones in between. Oh, here we go. So here's the law of relativity. So I'll read it really quick, and then we'll just go and we'll discuss what we got from it. So it says, as the experience continues, greater awareness and the desire for more understanding increases. The entity, the force, then probes to begin into the nature of those forces outside of its own control, outside of its own understanding. This awareness indicates, as this occurs, the quality of reason, the rational approach begins to develop. And in this development, there comes about an aspect of consciousness which desires to put things in order, to classify, to see things in retrospect, to see things in order of cause and effect, in the order of polarities and their relationship to one another, and in the order of relative placement and relationship. This awareness indicates that the consciousness then begins to observe from a particular viewpoint, and that particular viewpoint brings forth an observation and an understanding of the nature of outside forces which are peculiar to that particular viewpoint. This awareness indicates this as the basis for the law of relativity, which in simplified terms is but the relationship of all things understood by the particular viewpoint from which they are seen. This awareness indicates as the viewpoint shifts, the relative relationship of those things also becomes different. The train moving at a particular rate of speed in relation to the entity standing beside the tracks is somewhat different from the rate of speed of another train passing in the opposite direction, or of an automobile traveling in the same direction as the train. This awareness indicates the relative viewpoint of an entity looking at an elephant from the front is somewhat different from the entity looking at an elephant from an airplane, or the entity from beneath the elephant, or the entity from behind the elephant. This awareness indicates that each viewpoint is relative and each is accurate, and yet the descriptions will be totally different.
That I'm sorry. Because to me, I feel like I think that we don't look at it like that with people.
No.
You know what I mean? And people can have their own perspective about something. That's one of the things that really, really got to me in my healing journey is the fact that I never thought of perspectives.
Right.
And that's what made me just be like a little bit more balanced in my thought pattern, because it's like you might have a certain type of outlook on something that's different than somebody else's, but we have like this whole way, a conglomerate way of like thinking and doing stuff. And okay, I have to eat breakfast this morning, but what if I don't really, or I have to eat this for breakfast in the morning, just stuff like that. Like, what if I don't want that in the morning? Like, I don't like sweet stuff, like sugary, like pancake syrup, all that kind of stuff in the morning. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I'm just saying, like, it's just a matter of down to like the perspective of a person, or how somebody else is seeing it, or how it's even being viewed, from what viewpoint is it being looked at from. You know what I mean?
Well, because you can't even. It's so crazy because we live in our own little worlds where we think that what we say is gospel.
Right.
And like, that's just what, like, my world is how it is. And the way I look at things is how I look at them. But that doesn't mean anybody else's. Like, and that's something that I used to not be like aware of. So I would just sit and think that everybody had to understand like what, like what was going on in my little world. Like, it's my perspective. Like, no one will ever view what I'm doing through my eyes.
No.
Or how I feel through my body. Like, no one can do that. So it's really like when we read that and like thinking about it like that, it makes so much sense, because that's something we should afford that to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And like for a long time I didn't, but now
I did not.
Now it's something I can do, and I understand why it's so important. Like, it's so important. And I wanted to say hey to Ashton and hey Papito.
Hey.
Thank you guys for coming on here. So I don't know. I know that was a big one. That was a big realization for me.
That was a big realization, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because everything is just the way you perceive it. And there's no right or wrong answer in your perception of what you're doing. Like, no one can tell you you're wrong, because it's what you feel. And if the world functioned like that,
yeah, it'd be so
imagine.
much. Yeah. I mean, from my opinion, it has been like such a load off of me.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because it causes you not to be as judgmental, or even like hold something that somebody else should be doing in your like brain. It's like, sometimes you try to like kind of control what somebody's thinking or saying because you try to force your perspective on that person, and then you're like, your brain is all tightened up and all that. It's not even allowing the flow to go. I mean, I've noticed a huge change in that, and also just what somebody else's perspective is not really necessarily hurting you. It's
No.
really not.
That part.
So it's just funny how that has been a part. That was something that rose up in this journey, what have you. It's made me like really see stuff on the broad and have more respect for people.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it makes you respect that person because you're actually taking heed and you're actually looking at that person's perspective, and it also kind of opens up some different ways for you to think about stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't think about it like that.
Exactly. And that's why I feel like, and we've talked about this before, like why it's so important to even have conversations like this, because most people do not realize that your perspective is yours,
It's yours.
and theirs is theirs. Like, and I get it, because that was me. I was that person. But I think that's why it's so important to open up conversations like this, because if everyone allowed other people to be who they are, where they're at, and then it's your choice if you want to still deal with them or not. But let people be, because you can't change people's perception. No one's ever going to see it through your eyes. So you just be good with you and what you're doing, and let people be. And if they sync up and are in vibrational alignment with you, then you guys are going to mesh together, and it's not hard. Right. But if you guys are having different perspectives that are like too off the wall, you're not going to resonate with each other anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not even like a thing. But if people really let that roll, this world would be very, very, very different. Very different.
It would be.
So
that's like when stigmatisms and stuff like that come in or whatever, because we think that those are all just like something that we should all just kind of really stick to. But honestly, once you start letting people have their perspective, and then you allow for yourself to have your own perspective, it makes you see that it's not even like a stickler. Like certain things are not so like hard and so solid. You know what I mean? There's room for growth. There's room for it to flow. And there's also room for you to agree to disagree.
Yes. And be respectful even of that. Like there are things that, like I see, and this, this goes back to even like on Facebook, on Instagram. People see a post and they feel like they gotta show up and be like, well, ma'am. And it's like, no one asked, I didn't ask you.
Yeah.
What you're thinking. Thank you for your perspective. I'm not going to delete you, but you have to respect mine. Just because it's not something that you agree with, doesn't make what I'm saying wrong.
Yeah,
it's right for me. It might not be right for you, but that's the perspective, and that is the thing that if people put this into play, we would have a way different society. Oh my God. Like night and day different.
It would be night and day.
So crazy. And then I know, see, for me, the one that stuck out to me the most was the law of tolerance. And when I read this the first time, it kind of like hit me right in the gut, because I wasn't necessarily practicing this law. And I was like, now that I've seen it, and now that I've read it, and I know better, now I have to do better. And I remember feeling like a responsibility to be a better human after I read this.
Yeah.
So I'll read it out loud. And this is from the Cosmic Laws of Awareness. And this is the law of tolerance. It says, the law of tolerance is that law which recognizes the divinity in others, even when covered by their masks and armor of demonic imagery and activities, or hidden behind the walls of apparent ignorance, sleep, and stupidity. This is my favorite. Or residing in the bowels of lust, greed, and power. The law of tolerance is that law which allows one to speak through these walls and barriers to the divine God cell, which lies buried behind these outer layers, and awaits the liberation from the deep confines and imprisonment at the center of the self. This awareness suggests you are all gods and must in time learn to speak to each other as though you were addressing gods.
Mm.
Whew. And when I read this, I was like, I'm not really doing all that. Like, my mouth's a little loose sometimes, and I know everyone comes from the same source. I know everybody, like, we're all one.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't necessarily, I wasn't speaking to them as that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do struggle with this, daily. Like, this is daily work for me. But when you start looking at people in their divine self, and you realize that it's because that's you, and you start looking at yourself as your divine self,
right?
Life hits different. And I know for some people, they're probably like, who the hell even thinks like that? These laws, like, if you really read them and like sit with them and kind of like digest it, because these aren't like we're gonna have to go back and even reread these, because these are something that you have to really like feel.
Yeah.
And when I read this the first time, I was like, what? Like, I have to practice speaking to people as divine manifestations of source walking on earth. Like, I got to do that. And I'm better with it now. Am I perfect? No, I have my days. But it's so important to recognize the divinity in people. And there's an affirmation, and it says, I salute the divinity in myself and others.
Mm-hmm.
And I was writing that for like a long time to even start the process of thinking about people like that. Because people think we're just bodies here.
Yeah.
They don't realize that they are literally made up of stardust, like whole divine universe beings. Like, people nobody's looking at themselves like that, but that's really the reality of who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, to know that this is like a cosmic law, and it, even though maybe we haven't done the best at practicing that, like, where, like, kind of look at where is that coming from? Like, why has that been the case? You know what I mean? Why aren't we looking at each other in that way? You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm like sometimes too tolerant of people. Like, I really am, because I don't because I do look at people across the board. Like, I just, like, I don't, like, my first initial thing is not to look at them in a negative light. You know what I mean? So it's almost like, once I find out that that's not the case, maybe sometimes I'm naive to that, it's really like a mind blower. But it's not necessarily a mind blower, but it's more like, okay, well, I'm going to have to pull back on the tolerance. I'm going to have to pull back on how I've been, because evidently that wasn't something that was, I guess, reciprocated. You know what I mean? But it causes me to, I guess, kind of see, like, if I do see that that's not being, like, if that's something that somebody's not doing, or if I'm not doing it, I'm looking at why. Like, where I get this thought from? Like, is it something that I learned, like learned behavior, or is it something that person's actually doing in that moment, or is it like a what do you call it when it's like a striking a nerve? But, like, what do you call it when the people say, like, when it brings up a
a triggering?
A trigger, yeah, or something like that. You know what I mean? Kind of just seeing where it's coming from,
right?
And just like gauging it from there. Not saying it'd be like you're gonna be done with it overnight, but just kind of like seeing where it is, because it could be something that they're actually doing that is making you feel that way. But
that was the big thing for me that I was like, all right, well, you're talking crazy to some people.
Yeah.
Not like random, like people I meet at first. No, that's
Right.
always love because
Mm-hmm.
why not? But then like people that I might have had like an issue with or something, I'd really be like trying to not run my mouth
Mm-hmm.
and remember. But, you know, it's also within me that I got to work on stuff. And that's what these laws too, like
They deal with you.
these laws make you deal with yourself. And
Uh-huh.
one thing I hope that people take away from this entire series, podcast, anything we say
Mm-hmm.
is to really go within yourself and see what it's talking about for you.
Yeah.
Like people are too quick to look for someone to tell them what to think. Like even the stuff we're presenting tonight, like we're not asking you to take this as gospel. Take
Mm-hmm.
this back and sit with what we're talking about.
Right.
Because that's what you have to do with any information that's presented to you.
Mm-hmm.
Sit with it. Does it resonate with you? If it does, great. If it doesn't, throw it in the garbage. Like
Right.
it's just a tool. Like I look at everybody as it's some I can learn something from everybody
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know who you're talking to.
You really don't.
You really don't. You don't know what life experience people have, what they've been through, who they've spoken to, what insight they have. So always take what people say, listen to it. What is that saying? Like take the meat and leave the bones or something.
Yeah.
And I used to not be able to do that. I used to be very sensitive. Like I couldn't separate people from what they were saying.
Okay.
Like I couldn't, I even on Clubhouse, like I wouldn't go in certain rooms because I was too sensitive for the actual topic.
Right.
And I didn't like, cause it was very like ruckusy
Mm-hmm.
kind of talks, you know, but I couldn't like pull apart and just be objective and sit and get the information. And I have learned now to do that and just kind of take what I need from what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even look at the person who's saying it now.
Yeah.
I don't look at that because it's really just source working through people.
Yeah.
So I don't look at the people anymore. I just kind of listen and take what I need and keep it moving. So like anybody that's even listening, like, you know, look at what we're talking about. Like you don't have to take our word for it. Just look at it. Like I'll put the link. Maybe I'll put the link in the chat right now.
Yeah. You know, it's funny too. Like, just when we were like doing how we were orchestrating the Diamond Sutra rooms and stuff like that. I think that gave a huge open door to just like listening to people's perspective and kind of like the whole "this is what I heard" thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you know, because that's what you hear as a person, so you can't really tell somebody else what they heard. You know what I'm
That
saying?
part.
And you can't really. I mean, you can make it up, but that's like kind of like weird. That's like weird to say, okay, this is what I heard, and I make up something. Like, come on, like, really.
But people aren't really like when you're not sure of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like even to have your own perspective on something is hard for people. Because I remember even when I first found the Diamond Sutra and we were like reading in the room and I was listening to people and what they got from it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like you really got to think. And unfortunately, like people don't think. I know that sounds terrible, but it's very true. Like people don't think because they just copy paste, take somebody's thought, so like when I first came in there, I was like, oh, I love this because this is getting my brain moving.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't miss a day because I was like, wow, like I feel productive.
Yeah.
Just even brainstorming with a group of people who actually were thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me is just the icing on the cake of like life, to find people that are thinkers, that have perspectives of their own, that are not computer generated.
Mm-hmm.
Your grandpa told you, and you're like, oh yes, grandpa, that's what I'm thinking. No, like, it's from your heart. It's what, and there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
And I think that's the most amazing part of like everything, is to be able to sit and have conversations like that. And you don't have to make it up. It's just what you perceived.
Yeah.
And it's right for you. It can't be wrong. And that's very freeing. That helped me.
Yes, that was such an eye opener.
Ooh, that was big for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was huge for me, because I was like, wait, I don't have to have the right answer.
Right.
I just have to have my answer.
Right. Yeah.
And that was it. I ran with that, because now, even with the last law that we read, it's only your perspective. You cannot assign people, you cannot tell people how to think. It's your perspective. It's what you get. And I love that, because that's something that was life-changing. Even this is life-changing for me.
This is life-changing. Like right now, like, because I'm thinking about like how perspective can also lead to projecting.
Yep.
Because like if you have your own perspective, right, and you're not really respecting the fact that people have their own perspective, then you could project your own way on somebody else, because you want them, because we're so used to like having that camaraderie or whatever about something or about everything. You know what I mean? Not really like owning your own feelings, your own thoughts about stuff. So it's easy. It's like that's the norm, to just go ahead and project, and it's more arguments when you do that, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But then when you really respect somebody for their perspective, it just cuts down on the argument back and forth. Like it's like, okay, well, I see how you see that, or I can see where you're coming from, or I might not even see where you're coming from, but I respect that you have your own way of looking at it. You know what I mean?
You took the time to even think about it.
Yeah. Instead of trying to put your whatever you think is on that other person. Like, no. You know, but yes,
so
it's great.
I know the one that you really loved was the law of poverty. And I kind of feel like we should get into that, because that when people hear that, I know we've talked about the abundance book. We've talked about creating from the unseen. We've talked about all these things. However, knowing this information, you can shift your total reality by hearing this and realizing what's being put out within the masses.
Yeah.
And see what is going on for real, and then change your perception of what is going on here.
Yeah.
So it is like huge. Let me look up the page really quick and pop to it.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that was just like, even like all these laws, I can't believe this is even a thing, you know? And then it was like the law of poverty, like wow. And then the fact that it was like 10 of them.
I'll go through like here it is. I'll go through like the first 5, and then we'll pause, and then we'll go through the rest.
Okay.
So the law of poverty states that to the degree one withholds one's productivity and energy in hopes someone else will offer theirs instead, to that same degree, an entity earns and experiences poverty. The law of poverty states that to the degree one withholds productivity and energy in hopes of someone else will offer theirs instead, to that same degree. And then, this is the one that repeats it twice. I don't know why it does that. Okay. A second aspect of poverty comes to any who are productive and giving, but who fail to properly take hold and claim their proper reward in a suitable manner. A third aspect of poverty comes to those who attempt to unfairly claim the energies of another. A fourth aspect of poverty comes to those who squander their blessings, spending their energies in a wasteful manner until they have spent their time, money, health, mind, or other assets and have nothing left. A fifth aspect of poverty comes to those who become so fixated on pinching pennies that they lose their friends, health, and opportunities for being penny wise and pound foolish. Such persons often reject others or good opportunities in hasty reaction and poor discernment of the situation, thus losing a valuable asset or friend, and they may fail to avoid someone or something when it would be wise to do so. For not everything can be accepted, or one will suffer from excessive garbage filling one's life. So I'm going to pause there for a second, but I think about, like, when I was growing up, I would hear people say, like, oh, like they were penny pinchers and all that's like hoarding, you know, in general. And that's what that's making me think of, because for me, like, when you hold on to things, and even money, right?
Yeah.
You're holding on to it so tightly because you're afraid that you're not going to get more. But really, ultimately, we live in a world of abundance.
Right.
So whatever you let go of, it's going to come right back to you.
Yeah.
But you got to let it go. And you have to spend, like, obviously spend wisely, you know, spend with good energy.
Yes.
But if you hold on to it, you're blocking up. There's no movement.
There's no movement. Right.
So
right.
That's what I was thinking about as I'm reading this, because you know, I hear people say all the time, oh, I got to pinch my pennies. Oh, I got to save. I got to. Right. But while you're saying that out of the corner of your mouth, you're not realizing that, like, it's literally against, like, a cosmic law.
It is. It is. And what's so funny that just, you know, from us reading the abundance book, see, when we're not even taught this type of stuff, then we live in a society where some are so-called impoverished and some are not, or you know, just some people just come from a certain type of background and stuff like that, or jobs, because you don't know, like, if that's going to be a full-time job or not, you know, just certain situations, circumstances, and it causes you to look at that as the thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like we're learning right now, the source of your supply, right? So the fact that that law is in place, it's funny to me. And then the fact that if you knew where your source really came from, then you wouldn't really have a problem in that area of, you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's more of like the mindset. You know what I mean? That's perpetuating that, and it's kind of a hard thing to say, because if you're not looking at it on a spiritual level, then it's like, okay, what are you talking about? But if you look at it from a spiritual aspect and a special spiritual point of what is really truly what we have access to, then that's just a whole different dynamic when it comes down to this subject of poverty.
Well, people think that, like, and I was people, so let's just put that disclaimer out there.
Yeah.
I thought that money was like something.
Yeah.
Okay. Something that gave me value. Little did I know I'm the value.
Yes.
So I had to see that on that level first, because see, people link their value with how much is in their bank account. And that doesn't mean that doesn't make you as a person.
Wow.
And it took me years to understand that. And like now, as we're learning and as we're like starting to, like, you know, settle into the concept, like money is a spiritual thing. Because you are spiritual. You are a spirit. You are literally a soul in a body.
Yeah.
Like, so you're trying to do 3D shit and wondering why you're broke when you're not 3D. So it doesn't even make, like, as I'm saying, I'm like, you know, it's so funny. It's ugly, because
It's ugly.
I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to do things here, but really the source of my supply is spiritual. That's my God self, my higher self. So I got to look at it from that perspective, and then allow that to shift and show up here in its form, not the other way around. And like, even I know we talked about like how source is working through people. God works through people.
Yes.
So when you're getting money and you're looking at people like they're doing it for you, it's not even the people.
No.
It's source working through people. And when I started understanding this concept, like now I can sit and see how it really is working.
Yeah.
How things are just coming in. Like literally coming in, because I'm not looking at it as oh, bless you, as like a physical thing. I'm knowing now that I am provided for abundantly, like all sufficient supply from source, like that now will show up here physically, because I understand it in a different way now, not in the like, oh yeah, well, I just gotta like make money. No, it's not how it works.
You're right.
It's not how it works. And I know if you're absolutely right. Like if you're not looking at it in a spiritual aspect, it's not gonna
be weird. It's gonna be seeming like weird what we're talking about, but it's just changing your mind. It's just it's changing your mind. And like I didn't even know what that meant at first, but really renewing your mind, renewing your mindset.
Yeah.
It just takes away like the worry, and I just like see how when you are worried about those type of things, then you produce, then you like
you create more.
You create more. Like I'm telling you, I used to be mad at all this stuff. So I can understand if anybody's mad about what I'm saying, or for the first time hearing it, I was pissed. Like what? Like what do you mean I'm creating that, or what are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean?
But could you say that to me?
I don't even know what took place for me to start really looking at that. Like maybe because I was doing the same thing and then getting the same results.
Different results.
Yeah, but I was getting the same results, and I was just like, hold up. So then I maybe considered what that was saying or something like that. I don't know. Something has to spark in you.
Yeah.
Or else it'll be an idea that somebody's saying to you, and you're like, oh, okay. Or you'll be like, shut up. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
like,
you know, which I can understand.
People get mad when you talk about this. People get mad because
hey, I was people.
That's why, like,
mad.
If anyone ever wonders, like, who do these two think they are? We've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, got on the ride, took the carousel. Like, we've done, like, we can speak to this because we've literally transformed our mindsets. Like, we've transformed our lives. Still, like, this is, like, ever progressing, but, like, our mindsets we used to be absolutely different people. And like now the way that we are able to move throughout this world is because we did the work, the inner work.
Yep.
You know, people think you say, oh, I did the work, and they're wondering if you have a fucking hammer. No, I don't mean like going to work. I mean like working on yourself. Like,
no, for real.
Working on yourself. That is your only job here.
It's your only job. Under construction. And it's a hell of a job. So, like, once you start doing that, you really don't have no time to worry about what nobody else is doing. You really don't. Honestly, if you over here worried about what somebody else is doing, you couldn't be working on yourself. You just
you can't.
It's such a whew.
Honestly, like when I first like woke up, when I had my awakening last year, I remember thinking to myself, because I was like, shit, like I got a lot of work to do, but how am I going to have the time? Like, I'm a mom, I got 3 kids, I work, I got a little side thing. I was on Clubhouse all the time. I'm like, how am I going to make this work for me? Like, what does that look like for me? And I literally left that job, because I was like, this doesn't even resonate with me. I left that job, started doing something else, literally hunkered down in myself and started looking at me.
Right.
All of it. The ugly parts of me that I still wasn't like ready to really like deal with. And I'm like, how am I gonna like really work on me? Like, because I knew when I woke up, I literally knew I was supposed to be like working on myself full time. And I'm like, what? That doesn't even make sense to me.
Oh my God. I can't believe you saying that. That is so true. Full time. What?
I was like, wait, my job is to evolve? Oh shit. Like that's a lot of work. So I didn't even know, but at the time I'm like, oh, forget it. Like, this is crazy shit. And I like literally was like, forget it. And I tried to go back to regular life, right? So I'm sitting here making my chicken nuggets and vacuuming and shit. And I'm like, this isn't it, bro. This is not it.
I'm telling you.
This is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Like, excuse me.
Like, I'm sitting there like trying to avoid, and not because I didn't want to go within, but because I didn't believe that I could sit and have the capability to do it. I didn't think I'd be able to do any of this at all. And I don't know why I didn't believe in myself more then, but I think it's because it was such like a foreign concept. Like I told you, I didn't even know what spiritual awakening was. I had no idea what this even was. I had no idea. So to have it happen and then process through it, what? Like, okay. And I know there are people out there that probably, maybe have never heard of a spiritual awakening or don't think that it's real or something. This is something celebrated in other cultures. It is celebrated. It is like, oh my God, you're awake. Like, woo.
Yeah,
like, yes, girl. Yes. Like, but here they're like, oh, that bitch is crazy. No. See, that's not it. That ain't it. But in other countries, they're like, yes, girl. Ooh, we're so proud. Like people that I knew in other countries, like India, they were like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. Meanwhile, I'm like scared to death to even tell anybody that I even thought this.
Yeah.
Petrified to say a word. Petrified. I'm like, I can't be telling people this. They're going to be like, really? Oh yeah, that's great. Like, sure. But then like now, I know there's other people out there who are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
The same thing.
And more people are, so that's why it's just good that, at this point, I'm like I said, I'm very unapologetic about where I am because I'm looking at what we talked about with the spiritual loss because it's so refreshing. It's almost like I thought about these things and I would say maybe it came to me about these things, but then the fact that it's actual cosmic laws is like making me be like, oh, you can't tell me nothing. You know what I
mean? Because it's already written down. It's already written.
See, and that's the thing. All these things, it's been written. And you don't even know what people are talking. You don't even know what's going on, but it's actually already written. It's already
literally.
Written.
Like literally.
So I mean, it's more like because we just say stuff like believe it. Like I think our language and everything is so what the dictionary is saying that it is, or an outer projection of what it is. But this thing is more like feeling. Like
yes,
because believing to me now is more feeling that I can.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Knowing is more like knowing that I can, but it's not words. It's not talking about it. So I was talking to my friend today, and we were talking about how I left the situation, right? And she was like, "Girl, she's my friend, so I don't care." She said, "She's like, girl, I was just jealous how you just up and just walked away and you did this and did that." But we were laughing about it, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Yes." She said, "Because I just couldn't do it. I know that I need to do it and all that type of stuff, but I just couldn't do it, right?" And I said, "You know what?" And this is when somebody knows something from experience based on them trying to tell you something because they
Right.
just want to like be judgmental towards you, or girl, you need to do this or you need to do that. Because I wouldn't be doing this, I wouldn't be doing that. I didn't
Right.
never
Right.
judge her. I was just like, okay, you will and you what you will. But then when I did it, it was like I felt into it. Like it was literally like I can't do this no more.
Right.
So I was able to tell. It's so funny because she's like, I finally did what I need to do, and you could tell in her voice. You could tell with some of the things that she was saying. That's how you can tell about people too. Like you can tell how they move and what they say, right?
Right.
She was like, I did A, B, C, D, or whatever, and I was like, okay. I said, and you know what? I said, isn't it a feeling? I said, isn't it like a fed up radar in you, as
Right.
opposed to you saying like most of the time you're like, I'm done, I'm through, I'm finished, and you voice
Mhm.
all this, you're not done, you're not finished, you're not through. You know what I mean? But
No,
when
you
you
know when you
do
are.
it, one day it just happens.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I'm saying that in reverence to like just um, you know, um, just the growth in myself. It's not something that I know now. It's not something I could like really necessarily do as a
Right.
physical doing. It's more like it's like a feeling. You feel into it, and then it's like because when you try to do it and then you feel like you didn't do like make the cut or whatever, then
Hmm.
you're hard pressed judging yourself. You're
Right.
hard pressed like comparing yourself. You know what I'm saying? But when you realize it's coming from within and it's like kind of like baby steps, you know what I mean? And,
Hmm.
and you're being patient with yourself and you're feeling into it, then when it just clicks, it just clicks. You know what I mean? And then you start getting this momentum of how that feels as opposed to how the other way felt. And you just choose the
Yeah.
inner.
You keep
You know what I mean?
choosing. Yep.
You keep choosing. My mom used to always say, um, don't forget to choose. She always said, don't forget to choose. And it's like so much, so many things. I just, for me, I think, like I said, it's feel, because somebody can tell you something, like we talked about earlier, but it's not going to hit you until it hits you.
Right. Right.
Period.
It has to be. It has to be you experiencing it, or it's not going to make
It's not
sense.
going to make sense, and that's okay. But you have to respect that. Just because
Hmm.
you're telling, I remember telling somebody stuff till I'm blue in the face, or my significant other, or my ex husband, and it's like because we take these vows and we think, oh, da da da, like we become one, all this type of stuff, but really, it's still having respect for that person as an
Right.
individual. That they're
Yep.
not really there yet, right? And so, just because you're there does not mean that they're there.
Right.
But that's because it's a really an experience.
Hmm.
It's not just something you can just tell somebody and then they just click and get it like overnight. That's not how it works. You know what I mean?
No. And especially, God, there's so many things. Like it's almost like I'm thinking about like when my mom died,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody was like, "Oh God, that must be so hard," and "Oh, you must be da da," and I was like, "You don't really know because you still have both your parents." And
Oh, that
I used to say that shit a lot to people because I couldn't stand that people assumed they knew how I felt. And this goes
you
back to
don't.
the law of the first law we read. It's literally that
The
it's
law of
your
relativity.
perception. Yes,
Yeah.
the law of because it's your perception.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're sitting there and you're seeing it from how you had it happen,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're hearing people say, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah," but you haven't been through it. That's
It's
why I
really
think
a no.
it's yeah, it's it's a no. And like that's with anything. Like even when I got my felony, the things that I heard from people, I'm like, ma'am, you don't you can't speak to this. You
You
can't
really
speak
can't.
to it because you have not been through it. So don't come to me and tell me about me and what
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through. And even everyday life now, like with all the things we've been through, like
Yeah.
if you haven't been through something, you cannot speak to it. You just
Mm-mm.
can't. It's the way it is. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, a lot of people try to speak about things that they don't have the basis for.
You know what?
But you know.
That's so true. It's so funny how when you pay attention to certain things, how maybe when it comes around for you, it's just you look at it in a different type of way. Because when my ex
Mhm.
husband lost his mom, who I was very very close to, I could only just be there for him, but I did not understand.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
understand. I did not understand. Like
Yeah.
I would be looking for him all over the house, and he would be like curled up in the closet. This man is like 6'4". Like, and I'm
Mm-mm.
just like, all I could do is just hug you. All I can do is just be some type of
Be
moral
there.
support. But when I lost my mom, ooh,
I'm telling you.
I literally was trying to run into traffic. You know what I mean?
Oh my
'Cause
God.
I couldn't even breathe. I couldn't even. I was
Function.
like, you know what I'm saying? But you know what it helped me with? It helped me to still like love and admire that people still have their moms.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Because some people would be like, "Oh, you have your mom," or "It's Mother's Day," and da 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 da, and
Right. Right.
this
Right.
whole thing. And I just would not allow myself to like. I'm not saying I didn't like feel like, dang, like I miss her and I wish she was here, or those type of things like triggered something in me. But to see other people with their moms was like a joy for me
Right.
because
Right. Right.
why? Because I got a chance to see how it was for somebody else to lose their parent, and then I lost my parent, my mom. I'm gonna say mom because I don't even want to think about anything else. But I got a chance to see somebody lose their mom, and then I lost my mom, and I see how precious it is to have a mom because
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't always like perfect with me and my mom, but like for her not to be here is like, dang, what I
Exactly.
wouldn't give for her to just get on my nerve, you know what I mean, or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I just love to see people with their moms. I just love to see people with their moms.
Right.
You know.
And that's something that for other people could like trigger the shit out of them, because I know, like, for me, for a long time, like especially Mother's Day,
Hmm.
I was like,
Yeah, you can
"Nope,
actually just
I'm good."
yeah.
But then a couple years ago, I was like, I'm a mother. Why am I being a hater?
I,
And then I was like upset with myself for a minute, because I'm like, you can't let stuff that happened to you jade you like that.
yeah,
And also, like, my kids want to celebrate me. So,
yeah,
like, even though we know all these holidays are made up and shit, like
yeah.
Mother's Day should be every day. Like, let's just
Every
throw
day.
that out there. Mother's Day should be every day. But like now I see it through the eyes of a mother
Uh huh.
versus like the daughter, like the
Yeah,
grieving daughter.
yeah.
So now I can like be
See?
like, oh, like okay, like, and that's something that I tend to meet a lot of people who have lost a parent or like
Mhm.
lose a parent, and they're like, how are you even functioning? And
For
I'm
real.
like, I don't know. Like, I just kind of had to. I had to at the time. Like, now I look at even death so differently. So now I don't look at it as like an ending final thing. Like, now it's, to me, it's a transition. It's not like you're dead and that's it.
Hmm.
But that's like a
See?
whole that's a whole different,
That's a whole nother thing.
that's a whole topic.
But it does go along with relativity though,
Mm-hmm.
because
Your perception.
I'm listening to you say a couple of different ways of how you're looking at it now as opposed to how you're looking at it before. And it's like as a mom, you know what I mean, and then what you learned of it more spiritually. Those are
Mm-hmm.
still all aspects, but how do we still be there and have compassion for others who have not even like, they
Right.
have their own way of looking at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I don't know. It's just I guess it's a skill, it's a gift. I don't know. Uh, I don't
It
know.
is a skill. It absolutely is.
Hmm. Yeah.
Here, wait. You want to? Let's go into the number 6 on.
Okay.
We'll read the rest of the poverty laws,
Yeah.
because these are just too good, too good.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if anybody's just joining us, we've been talking about different cosmic laws of awareness, and a lot of these laws they've been in place since the beginning. And
Right.
these are things that people do not talk about. I mean, sometimes people come across things, like we happen to come across this, but this isn't like everyday reading material, I guess. And I know that for some people, they're probably like, what even is this? But these laws have been in place. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not flowing with the law, you're going against it. And we're all works in progress here.
Yeah.
However, but people think that the law is like what they tell you that the laws of the government, all that bullshit is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have laws that are spiritual with
Mm-hmm.
and nature, like the laws of nature, cosmic laws. Like these are the way the world has always functioned.
Always
But
flow.
we, what year did all these laws and shit come into place? 1776 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Mm-hmm.
that's, what about before that? What was
Mm-hmm.
everybody doing? And I feel like this is back to basics. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is basic how to treat people. And this is to make you aware.
Mm-hmm.
These are laws of awareness to
Right.
expand out what you know and have you shift your perspective and see like the original, just like the podcast, the original blueprint, see the original way things really went. And that's why we brought this out too, because a lot of the things that people know to be true are not even true. Like really, like not even true. Like Tangent always says, like we live in the inversion. Like everything you know to be true, make it opposite. Mm-hmm. Whatever somebody's doing, I do the opposite. I've always been like that. Mm-hmm. And now I see why. But even these laws, like the law we were just talking about was the law of poverty. So we went over the 5 aspects of it so far. Now we're going into number 6. So here we go. It says the 6th aspect of poverty comes to those who focus so much on one thing at any cost that they fail to diversify and partake of the entire banquet of life.
Wow. And
in the end, find themselves with a vast amount of one thing, but having little else. The 7th aspect of poverty is that which comes to those who have been convinced that they are unworthy or incapable of having anything of value, because they are fated or destined or karmically cursed to be in poverty. And by such belief, they accept their suffering plight.
Wow.
The 8th aspect of poverty comes through the collective karma. The cultural karma, such as political, environmental, social, natural, or geophysical forces that affect the masses and are usually impersonal to the injured individual. A 9th aspect of poverty comes to those who have been attacked by psychic curses from another, or by one's own sense of guilt from deep within the subconscious mind, to prevent the entity from having the benefits that would bring happiness. And the last one, the 10th aspect of poverty, comes to those who are given everything to make them happy, but have not learned that happiness must be generated from the attitudes within, or outer benefits will bring little to no relief.
And you know what?
Like what? Hey, Nasli.
Hey, Nasli.
Welcome.
That's so funny because we talked about that, like, was that last night? Because I was like thinking about people who, first of all, okay, you're impoverished or whatever, but then the ones who have everything or just have like things, material, they're not really worried about too much of anything. I was just thinking how difficult is that when you do have all that to even come from an aspect of what you just said from that law, like to still go within, because you don't. Maybe a lot of people feel like they don't even. I mean, maybe because if they can see like that, that the money doesn't mean that they're still unhappy, and maybe that could
Right.
unction you to go within and be like, okay, I'm not happy still. So what is
Right.
that?
What am I missing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
See,
those
the
are
piece for me is it says the seventh one where it says those who have been convinced that they are unworthy or incapable of having anything of value.
see.
I swore that I was destined to not be shit, to not have shit. Like, after I got my felony, I literally was like, I will never amount to anything in this life. Like, I'm a fucking loser. And it killed my soul. Like, I just was like, whatever.
Look at that though. Where is that coming from? That's coming from outside things or things put in place or so-called laws being put in place or how somebody thinks that somebody with the felony is or
and the crazier part was that that's how I thought about people with felonies, so that I thought I wasn't shit, and I was like, oh my god, like oh my god. And it took me until okay, so I'm 42. It took me until I was 40 to forgive myself for that whole thing. So from 21 until 40, I sat and thought I was a piece of trash for years. And it never occurred to me that all it would take was for me to look at it and like say it out loud and see how fucking stupid it sounded. Like I know what kind of human I am. So for me to ever have thought differently, but it was because I listened to everyone around me and what my family was saying. Like my poor father, God rest his soul, that man, I've never seen a human act like that over something. And the way he looked at me, it was such a disappointment to him. And I get it because I know I would be disappointed too to see my daughter get a felony and get in trouble and all that stuff.
That's pretty deep though. I mean, you know, thinking.
But I would have been like, hey, are you okay? Like, no one was asking me if I was okay because they were too mad at me. So like I internalized that, and instead of knowing who I was thinking I was like some bandit or something. Like I really, in my head, I was a whole piece of garbage. And I remember I had gone for like, my dad was like, you'll never get a real job.
Yeah, that kind of
You're never going to this. And then I wound up getting a job with New York State. And then when I went there, because that was like a big deal, like because people were like, you got a job at the state with a felony? And I was like, yeah. Wow. But then when I went for the interview, the woman that interviewed me was like, so what'd you get a felony for? So I said I was at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people. And she was like, and I kid you not, like I never felt such shame from someone I didn't even know. I didn't even know this lady. And I was like, oh my gosh, man, like, excuse me. But then everybody at work knew I had a felony. So I had to hear that and got so stupid because it really, when I think about it now, like none of that shit exists. Like I gave it life. So I know even with this poverty thing, like I gave that life in my head that I would never have anything because of my actions in the past. Now I know abundance is my birthright. I get it all. But it's on a spiritual level. Like the way it works now that I know how to like combat, I even want to say like combat poverty. Yeah. It's going within.
Yeah.
That's it. Like self-love, going within and getting right with yourself. because you are source. You got to get right. You people are like, oh, get right with God. Yeah, get right with yourself.
Yeah.
And then you won't be in poverty. You won't be feeling like what's that word? Depleted. You won't feel depleted because you're gonna feel full because you're whole in your heart.
Yeah, and
I
it's
know
just
that.
like, yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was gonna say I know that sounds corny, but
No, it doesn't sound
it's
corny.
true.
It's just that it's still relative, you know. It still is perspective because
Hmm.
when you read those laws and you read that many like that about poverty, you see to me like you see how that can be in place and then how somebody could derail that and use that
Yes.
against people. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So there's been generation after generation of that type of thinking. You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
And even like you said, when I was hearing you talk about how your dad felt about the situation, it's not even what somebody says about the energy, like how you feel. You know, how
Right.
you can walk through the house and it's like, oh my god, I have to walk on eggshells, or
Hmm.
so it's like you still. I think that I think we don't realize that we are still energetically, um, like even if we don't like say it, we
Hmm.
are still feeling it. We are still um thinking it. You know what I mean? And then we're still producing it.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
and then let's not even talk about how you carry your children in your womb.
Girl,
Let's
listen.
not even do that. So we have generation after generation of that, even the impoverished mindset, or
Yep.
just making do type thing. And so it's that much harder sometimes for people to even fathom
Hmm. Yep. Because of what you've seen and know you. It's not even what you're thinking. It's what you're seeing to be true.
what you're seeing to be true in your own environment
Yep.
and stuff like that. You
Yep.
see what I'm saying? So this whole process, I believe, you know, that like when you see somebody and we're talking out like this and we're saying and we're being transparent about our lives, that you can do it too. Like I can't tell you what happens, but
Right.
the start of it could be just you just making that decision like, okay, something's not right, or whatever it
Right.
might be, because I'm telling you there are situations out there that are like you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-mm.
You don't see that. And I'm telling you for a long time, but really, um, I always wanted to know what my purpose was. But now that I'm here, I'm looking at I was like on the track to my purpose like pretty much the whole time. But the main ingredient for that is the self love.
Yep.
The main
Yep.
ingredient for any of it is self love, because that thing you sent me today on TikTok when that man was talking about the ego and separating that
Yes.
from
Yep.
the spiritual, not necessarily separated, but knowing it. And I think that's what we did even with the Diamond Sutra. What the Diamond Sutra did was it showed the separation,
Hmm.
even though it was one, right? But
Yep.
it showed the ego, and then it showed the spiritual side,
Right.
right? At
Yep.
one in one ball, like in one time, like I would say your third eye, like you can see it from like a kind. I want to say kind of like a kind of crystal ball type of thing.
Hmm.
And then this is how I saw it. You can see that ego part play out and then that spiritual part play out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you cannot explain the spiritual because that's not yours to really explain.
Right.
But you can use that spiritual aspect because you're spirit first onto the ego. So when he explained it like that, I was like, whoa, because you have to kind of dissect it
Right.
to even understand what's going on, because the ego side is not going to create necessarily and integrate the spiritual side, but the
Right.
spiritual side can integrate the ego. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And when he was talking to, like, I think it's funny because he was basically what this man was talking about was when he talks to himself, right? And talking to yourself is normal. So like when people think that you're crazy for talking to yourself, like you should hash some shit out with yourself if you need to, because it's really very normal. But he was
Yeah.
saying like when you are doing that, speak to yourself in the third person.
Mm-hmm.
So like, Melissa, what are you doing?
Right.
And it's so funny because I freaking do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I laugh because I'm always like even when I say to you, I'm like, Melissa Ann, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's just so funny because I didn't know that's what I was even doing. But this is just, again, confirmation that just like these laws are confirmation of things that we have already discussed, and they're coming up and they're written down. And as we're going along and we're learning all these things, like we're it's remembering what you know to be true already. But like as we're reading these books and just kind of like sitting with the stuff, it's so crazy how deep these laws are, but that they're already inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing that, like, when even like reading any of these, like I could pull up any one of them.
Yeah.
And even like, all right, so I'm going to read the law of money.
Mm-hmm.
The law of money states that money is but an artificially created symbol used as a substitute to store energies borrowed,
gosh,
earned, spent, owed, claimed, or exchanged. To be good money, the symbol must be acceptable to others in a society who are willing to part with valuables or energies in exchange for the money symbol. Each society may further define its own money and the use thereof. Now, we've talked about how we are the currency. So you may have conversations like this and not even realize that you're in tune with these laws.
Yeah.
Until it comes to you and you're like, oh my God, like that's what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We just said that yesterday. We just said that this morning. And going through and seeing that these are natural. Yeah. Like this is like the natural law versus what's written in books that men made up.
You better say it. That's what it is. The man-made.
Like, they're man-made. And these, like, yes, this is written down, but these are actual, like, inside of you laws. Just like when we read Florence the first time, the Florence Scovel Shinn, we read A Game of Life and How to Play It. Yeah. And the first part of the book says, you need to know spiritual law, the Old Testament, and the New Testament. If you want to play the game of life, ma'am. But see, most people don't know there are spiritual laws. They don't know there's cosmic laws. Then you got, all other different laws.
States of being. All this stuff is all replica because the states of being. Because even when you say to know the Old New Testament, that it's even how that's even taught.
I know.
That's it's so many.
Like I can't wait because I know eventually we're gonna do it and to talk about the Bible the way we talk about it. And like some people talk about the Bible, they think it's a book about people. The Bible for us is not a book about people. It's levels of awareness. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right.
It's just like the thing.
It's about you. It's about you.
Yeah, it's about you. It's like a story about levels of your awareness. And even, I love when you brought up about the disciples and about their characteristics and stuff, because
that blew me away.
That's all us. It's at the level of awareness that you're at, which characteristic corresponds with you.
And you know what? It's so deep, like what we're talking about right now. That came to me. Now we say downloads, whatever. But I'm going to say Holy Spirit. I'm going to say at that moment, that's what I knew it was. But this is before this is long years ago.
This was like,
yeah, because I had this dream about I had this dream about disciples and this whole thing. And then it was like, as I was trying to understand what was happening in the dream or whatever, it was saying that these are attributes.
Right.
I didn't even know what that really meant either. So I had to look that up and all that kind of stuff. And then later on down the line, all these years later, come to find out, those are attributes of yourself. And I know it's just when you have a certain way that you learn something for so long, it will be hard to even grasp something like that. That's why it has to be an inside job. It
Yep.
has to be something that's coming to you because you have something else to counteract it. And so you look at it and you bounce back with it, and that's something that goes on in you. Like,
Right.
I'm not here to tell anybody, oh, this is what this is, and you need to know, you need to hear what I'm saying, you know. But what I'm saying is, this is something that came up in me, and
Right.
then later on down the line, it's coming out as confirmation.
Right. Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Like, this whole thing is that for me, because it can't be nothing else other than that. You know what I'm saying? Because it has to happen in us as individuals. We have to have an individual walk with ourselves.
And that's what I think a lot of people, I think people lose sight of that, because it's easy to look at what other people are doing and then compare yourself, like, oh, well, so-and-so is here and doing this, and they understand it this way. But it's just your perception. It goes back to the law that it's how you perceive it.
Right.
And not everybody's at the same place at the same time. Like, there's things that, like, when we talk, when you say them, I'm like, holy shit, like, I never even thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it resonates so deeply with me that I know it to be true.
Yeah. I never thought of that either. I'm like, this is how it just came to me. I'm like, what? Like,
and then even like the way that things unfold, just the way that like this whole thing works. I feel like when you get into alignment with yourself, that's when you literally attract in the people that you are in alignment with also. And then it allows you to open up and expand and grow and see things differently. Like, I know that this podcast is definitely not your average Joe podcast of like, do you want to talk about movie reviews or world politics? Like, I'm not doing any of that, because that does not interest me at all. Not even a little bit. But when we're talking about stuff like this, like, I know that these are like life-changing things,
right,
that could help people. And even if people don't really understand, or maybe they've never encountered anything like this, do yourself a favor. I put it in the chat. I know it's not going to be on. It's actually, let me read it to you. The thing. It's cosmic. Where is it? CosmicAwareness.org is where this reading comes from. And I mean, there's so many really good laws in here. I mean, they're all amazing, but some of them that stuck out were just so hardcore. Like, especially, I want to read the last one. Because I just...
And you got to read the other one. I don't know why I keep on...
Which one?
The other one we read the other night in Clubhouse. I'm so sorry. Let me see. But no, not right now. You can read the other one first. I'm saying, why do I keep on forgetting that name?
Oh, yes. It's just... Hold on. Okay, here we go. I'm going to read that one first.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah. So here we go. It's the law of portrayal. Yeah. Because I feel like the last one is, since it's the very last one, it's like a good, Yeah. So, okay. So the law of portrayal is that law which states that any action portrayed cultivates the attitude of that action to the degree and impact of the energy involved in that portrayal, and with repetition can mold a real life character quality that emanates and expresses the qualities of that action, with all of its accompanying feelings, behaviors, and patterns of expression. The law of portrayal states that anyone's gimmick, role, or characteristic, when repeatedly used and mastered, may easily become the master of the one who uses it, and may, as habit, begin to use that person or personality. The behavioral pattern and characteristic can reinforce itself in patterns of belief until an entire lifestyle and philosophy is built around that role seed, which once originated only as a game, a portrayal or limitation of something or character who exemplified that image. And I mean, yeah. But see, think of the people even on the internet though. These influencers, these spiritual gurus, they got gimmicks, they got tricks, they got see, for me, I can't do it. I can't do it. There are very few people that I will sit and be like, oh yes, I listen to what they're saying and take it and like internalize it. Most of the people that I look at are dead. Neville Goddard, Bob Proctor, like these are the people who I am like, I read their stuff, it resonates with my soul, and I internalize it, I interpret it, and I can now go about my business. But these people are literal gimmicks.
I mean, that is a cosmic law right there. That's something that's happening.
I'm just saying. I mean, but it's also like, okay, so when it's repeatedly used and mastered, right? So you think you're doing something. You're like, all right, I got my roll down pat. I know what I'm doing, right?
And it's lights, camera, action every time.
May easily become the master of the one who uses it. So you're sitting there putting on a whole production, right? And then that becomes your persona, and that's who you are. And then you lose who you actually are. Like what? And this is a law. Because you're supposed to be the original. You know, when I used to hear people say like the OG and da-da-da, and I'd be like, the original. I don't know a lot of originals. And then I'm like, am I being original?
But think about it though. We weren't, like, even the story that we're telling, we were not, because we had a whole different outlook of who we actually were.
Yep.
And it became
we didn't even know.
Something that one day you woke up and was like, this is not working. So that's the same thing that's going to have to happen with people who are thinking they're doing something and caught up in this whole thing and not even knowing that it start using you. You're not even
like
you got high off your own.
You think you're really doing it, and then
that's deep.
You're a whole duplicate.
Because when Rocky came on there talking about, and she wasn't even in the room, she came and talked about Richard Simmons. Think about the persona of Richard Simmons. Think about the whole personality, the whole brand, everything, right? And then you're literally helping people change their life.
Right.
But then you're not even doing that for yourself. So that's
just so sad. Like,
that's what we're doing though.
Right. Yep.
But we don't utilize, like that man that you sent from TikTok. That's what he's saying. Because
I mean,
you have to actually be like, okay, because we're vessels, right? But we're spiritual. I have to talk to my vessel self the same way I do to everybody else. I'm helping that too, along with everybody else, or I'm speaking to that vessel along with everybody else. That's the problem. We leave that part out.
Well, because nope, you're absolutely
right. That's the last thing that you even go help or go love, or
like SOS. What about me?
And you don't think like that because it's always outside of yourself. Everything.
Yeah.
Right. But then you got to come back and resuscitate that when it's almost like on flatline. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, when she came and said that just put icing on the cake with what that law is talking about, because you accept and you're connecting to another persona outside of yourself is always like trying to escape you, and then that actual persona consumes you.
Yep. And that's all you know.
You don't even know the difference of you even being that persona, and you don't even know nothing about the you that you were, because that's so small compared to this thing right here. I'm telling
It
you.
reminds me of like that method acting. That's what it reminds me of. That people get so caught up in the role they're playing. And this is people, this is everyday
Everything.
people. This is
Everything.
people in your family. These are
Yeah.
people like friends, people that you've worked with. Like, think of all the people who are like playing a role instead of just showing up as the authentic version of themselves. Like, you got the person who wants to be the boss of everything. You got the person who's doing this or doing that or doing the most. And like, you've played a role so long, you don't even know who you are.
You don't.
And I think I gotta be honest, I feel like I experienced this when I had the kids.
Okay.
Because I was being like, I was mom, you know? And then I didn't know how to be Melissa.
Man.
Because I was like, who the hell even is that?
Like
I said, like, I know I joke about this, but I'm very serious. Like, I thought all I had to offer to the world was being a mother. And I'm not,
oh my God.
I'm not saying that's not an amazing feat, because being a mother is the most incredible fucking thing that I've ever done in my life. Like, I would not be who I am without my child. Like, I love my kids like to the umpteenth degree.
Yeah.
But that is not all that I am.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, oh yeah, like, you're good at making like banana bread and chicken nuggets. Like, that's cool. Meanwhile, back at the ranch and cleaning. I'm a great cleaner. I love scrubbing the floor. My bathroom looks great. Yeah, and like so. And it's so crazy now because I didn't know who I was. Now I'm not playing the role of mom. I'm Melissa. I'm like sturdy in who I am now. So now I can be the person I want to show up as. And I'm not just limited to being a mom with no identity. Now I'm like doing the most over here by doing the least, which is so crazy anyway.
And you know, like how I was like ripping and running, like taking my baby to work and all that. And it was so deep how I had to look at it. It's just how I look at stuff now. So my oldest baby got into a car accident, and then my car started acting crazy. And it was like, don't you see? All I'm doing is trying to make sure that you get some right. I mean, you need to really stop for a minute.
Slow down.
It's showing up as this, but honestly, you need to sit down. She needs to learn how to be a little bit more independent. And it's not even that far away. I mean, all these things are all source showing me that I have to come out of that, because I'm not balancing it good enough. I'm not balancing it.
Right.
So it's consuming me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Am I here talking about the law of what we just got talking about that's nothing you have to be careful of, because we can always talk about these laws and know somebody else that it can go for. No, it's going
right, but it has to go for us.
It's going for you, because I was getting caught up in the repetition of that and not even recognizing that was an issue. Especially if I want to go through these other doors that I claim I want to go through. You have to have a balance.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I was like, man, because I was able to, first of all, be receptive towards what was even going on with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we also can be very like, oh no, that's not happening, or that's not going on, but that's going on.
Right, right.
To be able to,
because who wants to be the bearer of bad news to yourself? It's like,
but that's all a part of self-love.
Yep.
You check your own self. You have to line up with your own self. That's not easy to do. Most people don't want to do stuff like that. It's not all like, bells and whistles all the time. No.
Roses and daisies.
Yeah, it's not. So.
I like to say I'm a little love light and go fuck yourself, because really that's what it is. It's like,
it is.
It really, it's not easy you know, it's just not easy. It's an everyday thing that you're like, all right, like this is how I'm going to show up today.
Yeah.
But it gets easier as you do it because anything
Yeah.
you practice gets easier.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, losing sight of yourself, if you don't do the inner work, it's very easy.
Oh
You
my God.
lose sight of, you don't even know what you're doing because you're trying to bombard. You know, I used to be the queen, the queen of number one, blaming everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
but number two, constantly staying busy so that I didn't have to sit with myself.
Ugly.
And I mean, it was ugly.
Oh.
It was ugly. And like even healing is ugly. All these things are ugly, but when you do it though,
it's beautiful.
That like now that I know what it's like to actually heal, I ask for things to heal because I know on the other side of that, I am going to be the shiny diamond because I'm the best version of me at the time. Because it's literally like, give me all the smoke. I want all the traumas to come up.
Get out of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. Even like the other day, like when we were reading, what the hell were we reading? I think it was The Cosmic Laws of Awareness when I was talking about my dad and like back in the day. Oh no! It was
before that.
It was the abundance book, but the way that it came, the way it showed up for me, I did not expect to feel the way I felt. Even today, I had something pop up for me, and I didn't expect to feel how I felt, but I know that it's something I needed to heal. So I had to sit with that. But once I sat with it and recognized what it is, I was like, oh, all right, like next. And I know that now, like, even though it sounds silly, tomorrow when I wake up, it doesn't even exist anymore. It existed for this little time now, but I felt the feeling, processed it,
through it,
move on. And that's it now. Like, I'm not wasting time on things that are not productive for me, because I know that on the other side of healing is this, like even today when I went to the dentist, the woman that I talked to, the hygienist, we were talking about how the only time is right now. And for her, you could see the shackles falling off of her, and you could see her lighter. Because when you start realizing all these things don't even matter, and you can create now, like, it was so beautiful. Even though, like, I know she's got other healing to do, you could see that she was like, wow, like, you went through all that shit and you, like, healed that up. And I'm like, listen, it's not overnight. I'm not saying that, but you can. Like, it doesn't matter what you've been through. Like, when you heal that up, and then once you feel how it feels to heal, you don't want to go back. Like, I want to keep healing. And even if it's things that I don't think are a problem, if they pop up, I'm going to look at them, because you feel when it's off now. Like, I used to not know when things were a problem. Now I know. Like, even today, the thing I had pop up, it kind of like, it didn't trigger me, but it like twinged my heart a little bit. And I'm like, why am I even looking at this like this? What is it about me that I have to deal with on the inside in order to press forward? And then I looked at it and I was like, all right, like, it's really not that serious. You can't change it. You can absorb it, clear it, and move on. And that's it. And even though some people might be like, oh, I can't do that. That sounds so easy. Because it is. We make it hard. We're telling ourselves these stories and making all this shit up in our head. Because really, at the end of the day, who's telling you about you?
You gotta
you
dump
are.
it out. and put in new thoughts.
And I know it's not an overnight thing, and
No, it's not.
It's work, but like, it's so amazing. It's so, I could never, I think about the old version of me and that poor baby,
Yeah.
baby, because she was broken. She was broken. And now looking back, I'm like, whew, I'm glad I saved her, because nobody else was coming to save me. Nobody else was coming. No one noticed. Nobody saw. I had to go back and say, I had to be like, Melissa, you all right in there? Are you okay? And then be like, oh, let me go sew this up over here, because no one else is gonna do it. Nobody else. And it's your life. Like, you are the do-it-yourself job.
But first you gotta get the epiphany. Like, and that
yes.
That
takes people a little bit. It took me a long time. I was like 40. You know, like I used to beat myself up over that. Now I know it's just the way it was supposed to happen for this time. But like, we can save people years, even by sharing how we're sharing.
Yeah,
and this is why I will always share. I don't care if people are sick of me. I don't care if they don't want to hear my mouth. Sharing your story. Sharing your, oh my God, yeah. And like, I said the other day to somebody, I'm like, my literal purpose is to share my story so other people know they're not alone, and know that they don't have to be where they're at. Yeah. You might not love where you're at, but you don't have to stay there. And people are like, yeah, but no, there's no buts. You have to decide. You got to decide. And that's the hardest part. But once you do,
like,
that's it.
You get the epiphany, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm a diamond. Wait a minute.
Yeah, like,
and then you like go back and you go. It's like to me, it's like a video game, because you go back and like,
yep,
rescue the other yous.
Like the princess in the castle on Mario. Yeah. Like, go save her.
In the bondage. Like, oh no, I'm gonna go back to my childhood. Oh no, I'm about to rescue. You know.
Yep.
I'm gonna rescue you. You know, I don't know.
Go save little Melissa. Go save little Tangenique. Go get them. But that's what you gotta. You have to. You have to. I mean, I know there's people that will never do this, and I understand. I understand. Because even when I was going through my addiction and all that shit, it was easier for me to be numb to like what was actually going on, because I didn't want to look at the ugly parts of me.
Yeah.
So it was easier for me to pretend like that didn't even exist. Like, everything was great, right? Like, and then once I finally like was like so sick of myself, and I started looking at everything, I'm like, wait, maybe it is you that's the problem. And that's okay. It's okay. But you have to then change that. Like, it's okay to be the problem. But then you have to actually like do something.
Be the salt.
Or you don't. Or you don't. And you sit miserable forever. You can do that too.
But see how like even stuff like, oh, you're the problem and the solution.
Yep.
Yeah.
The student and the teacher. Yep.
Okay. Like, for real. Like you said, it's always you. It never is going to be nobody else to come and save you. And that's another thing that we have been stigmatized with, is that it's going to be somebody else outside. We even project that on other people. We even blame other people for not being there. It's like, other night I was like, these people did love me. They did what they could do. Like, I have to love me myself in order to think that it's something to even be done. Like, not put that on somebody else. That's rude. It really is. Because honestly, it's too much. It's already enough work. If somebody's helping you do something, that is like so much gratitude, because they really don't have to. It's so much work you have to do for your own self. To even take the time to even help somebody else is a really big thing. You know what I mean? And we should be grateful for whatever type of help along the way, or whatever somebody can, contributes to who you are and stuff like that. So I would like forever be grateful, like I said, for my sister and my cousin when I was going through the homeless situation with my children, because they gave me, and I'm just saying this right now, I'm just getting this. They literally gave me what I give. You know why? Because when I see somebody, if I see a bum on the street, it's the same thing that you read earlier. I do not look at them less than.
Right.
And they
Nope.
treated me like I was not less than. Even I felt like I'm the one who people come stay with. I'm the one who has a little extra money, and like I don't even want it back because I just don't want to have that type of energy towards anybody.
Right.
If I have it, I just don't want to have that energy. I just don't. And to have to be the recipient of that was just so humbling for me. But they treated me the same. They didn't treat me
Right.
less than. If anything, like I said, I was doing it to myself. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yep.
And maybe because of pride or whatever it is. But when you can really just not treat somebody for whatever walk of life they're in, just like they don't, so they won't feel less than. Then that's a very strong skill. That's beautiful to do. You know what I mean?
But that's part of even that law of I forget what it's even called right now. The one I just read before about seeing the divinity in others.
Yeah, that's what
And
I'm
then
saying.
yeah, like
Yeah,
that when you can do that with people, it's like it really is beautiful because you don't know whose life you're changing. And
you don't.
even it's so deep. That law that law just does it for me because when you it's there have been so many times where I know I've been looked down on that people have judged me and all the things and family, friends, people
Yeah,
I
we
don't
get what.
talk to,
Yeah, yeah,
and like to be able to look past, but because I'm seeing energy, I'm
yeah,
seeing the
yeah,
spiritual side versus seeing like you're a
mm,
body
yeah.
because again, we're not just bodies here,
Right.
and like I know that it's a lot of people think you are, and that's okay, but that's not true. You're not just a body here. Like there's so much, and when you can see that other people are so much too, even people that you might deem as less than. And I think that in the sutra, that's where I really learned about that. like
Yeah.
i like I knew to always treat people good, like no matter where you were at. Like even when I was in 5th grade, we went on a field trip and we were in
Mm,
New York City, and there was a man and he was homeless and he was sitting on the ground, and we were on our way to McDonald's to go
mm-hmm,
get ice cream. And as I was walking, I gave him my last $10. So
mm.
when we got to McDonald's, I was like, so
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, where's your money? And I'm like, hmm. These women yelled at me because I didn't have money for my ice cream. But like no one offered to pay either. But I'm just
Really?
saying the fact that like I gave it to a homeless man. I was like
Wow.
10 years old. But that giving, I never looked at these people, but I got yelled at for it. Do you know
Wow.
what I mean?
Wow.
Because people have a perception
Yeah.
of what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget. And I was so sad to get yelled at as like a young kid doing that because I didn't think there was anything wrong with it
Right.
because he needed some, like you
But
could.
you see, mm,
So like as an adult now,
mm.
I look at everybody the same because that could be me. That
That's
could
what I
have
was gonna
been
say.
me.
Like
That could be any of us.
we got looked at so wrong from our moms because my sisters and my
Mm,
cousin, our moms are sisters, and so our grandmother raised us, but my grandmother really raised my two cousins because they didn't have their mom or dad,
mm,
you know. Um, but my mom was like in and out a lot, but
right.
still, like we ended up being in situations having to live with other people or this. And we got treated so wrong. Like people literally looked at us like we were never gonna be nothing. Like I'm talking about literally, like literally. You know what I mean? Like, and so like that's what I was making me think. Like I really looked at that and I was like, I will never make nobody feel that way. You know what I'm saying? Because I know how it feels for people, and I, like you said before, I know who I am inside.
Right.
I'm not this situation. Like this is not even. I'm a kid in the situation.
Right.
But because my mom is in this situation, and we're in it with her, and they feel like that's a dead end road where she's headed. You know, it will be nothing.
They could be dead ends.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm talking about. I know people are probably like not. I mean, because I've always been this kind of person, but still, like it comes with self-worth. You know what I mean? Low self-esteem because not having stuff and not being able to, you know, look a certain just stuff. But people just treated us like we would be nothing. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So
and that's no. And now I bet those people are gonna really be singing a different tune. You know? Because when you follow your heart and when you start walking in your purpose and know who you are, like people are going to be like, wait, that's the girl that I thought wasn't ever going to be shit. That's the girl who had a felony and gaga. That's the girl whose mom da da da. Yeah, and that doesn't define us. And that's, I think, honestly, like I know that there are so many people out there that go through the same thing, feel the same way, beat down by life, all the things, but like you literally don't have to stay there. Like that is one thing. Like I will share my story and yodel it from the rooftops. Because I'm not embarrassed because
I'm not embarrassed.
I know you can change everything.
Like it's just so much more I could say. It's like, I mean, and I'm sure that it'll come out maybe in a book, maybe in so and so, but like I'm talking about people knew the situation. Like when I was in high school, I'm not saying no names, but literally I was doing work for somebody else to graduate and go to college. And it was like, what about me? You knew my situation. You knew that nobody helped me to fill out my financial aid if I needed it. None of, like, okay, did you want to go to school? Did you want to go away to college? Hell yes, because can I get out of this situation of you know, of just always taking care of just like this poverty situation that I'm in and making do situation. I would love to leave the situation, but it's like I'm good enough only to make sure your child gets. And the person didn't even like love the school. They just went there and just effed it all up. Believe me, I wouldn't have came back. Believe me. You know what I'm saying?
I would not have come back.
But you know, it's cool. But I'm just saying, I'm looking back on it because I'm saying it because I want to be the person who can see that person is like they want it. It's inside in them. Because honestly, who you are, like I said before, who you are is already in the seed of who you are, right? Yep. So the circumstances or how something might look around is not dictating who you actually are. So like I want to see like young girls or young guys, whatever, and I can be able to really help because you already have it in you to want to do it. But people are looking at you because of your circumstances or because of your situation or what your mom or somebody else is doing in your environment. But they're overlooking the you that you are.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
But then you also get the people who they see you for who you were then.
Yeah.
But because they've never changed, they can't understand that you are not even the same person. People that in my family, they don't even know what to make of me. I got to be honest with you. Like, I haven't talked to a lot of them in a very long time because they see Melissa with the felony, unwed pregnant mother Melissa, Melissa that had addiction issues, blah, 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 blah. That's what they see. And they don't see Melissa who shares her story,
Mhm.
wants to inspire other people to be their best selves, mastered her mindset, talks about raising awareness on your divinity and your soul's purpose. Like, they
Well,
can't
can't
even
fathom.
comprehend that
No,
shit.
they can't fathom what that is. And it's and I saw this thing, and that guy was saying, people visit my past more than I do.
Yeah, it's true. Like I don't even know that person. Like, can I help you? Like, I don't even know who that is.
Like,
I
what are
really,
you talking about?
I have no idea who these people are. And I was laughing today because I was driving down the road by my family's house, like, and I thought to myself, I wouldn't even stop. I wouldn't even stop. There would be nothing to compel me
Uh-huh.
because it would be like talking different languages because they still think they're talking to somebody from 3 years ago versus like who I am now. Like, it's not even, does not compute. Like, not even on the same
It's not.
thing. It's not even on the same wavelength. Not even the same galaxy now. Like, I don't even know who that was. It's so crazy. It's so deep. It really is.
But it's also very just beautiful. Like, to even be able to look at that and see it a different perspective and stuff. It's such. I'm very grateful that I could look at it, utilize it, alchemize it, and turn it into something else. Like, turn it into something beautiful.
I want to follow that with the law of the universe because I think this ties in perfectly right here because it's exactly, like we read this the other day, but I don't remember the words verbatim. I just think it's funny that like this ties in so perfectly with what we're talking about. So it says, entities earn those gifts which they have. Entities evolve by using what they have at hand. And if entities truly seek to have these experiences, which are miraculous, then indeed they must devote their energies, time, and lives towards this end. Wow. And I gotta say, I really think that this speaks to us because we use what we had at hand. The gifts that we have, they are earned. Really, the gift of compassion.
They are.
We earn these from what we've been through and what we've persevered through. And like, the experiences that we have now are miraculous.
They are.
Like,
and we haven't even seen nothing yet.
We haven't even seen anything.
Like, I got hit with some miracles. I'm like, but you know what? I also saw this thing where, wow, literally the blockages that get formed are why you were not successful.
Yeah.
But the fact that we got a hold to this and seeing it as source of our supply,
there are no blockages.
Those blockages, like I call them dams.
Yeah.
Like you see what I'm saying? Like, I was saying that, but I wasn't knowing I was really talking about. But then I saw it, and it just, like I said, confirmation again. It washes away the blockages with the source of your supply.
Yep.
So I can see what that's saying right now, because if you're utilizing whatever that just got through saying, if you start taking that route, then that's going to get washed away, and you'll next thing you know, you'll be in the flow of what you are supposed to be doing. Period. Like, it I see that now. Just by you saying that, I just see it. I see it. Like, I see, because once, like, even reading the prosperity, the abundance book or whatever, and how Neville says you have to wait on it. Like, don't, because you're not seeing it right now, do not abort it. Do not forfeit it. Do not throw in the towel. Wait on it. It's not late. It's not early.
It's right on time. All of it.
I'm telling you right now, having that mindset shift, because that's faith, right? To just wait wait, right? When it comes, you're just in the day. You're just in when it comes. Period.
Yep.
It's there. And I'm talking about I just got hit with two things back to back. Like I'm like, wait a minute, I can really enjoy more of this. This is keep on having this happen like over a different way. Like
Yep.
whoa, you know what I mean? I'm just like,
But see, once you clear the blockages, right? It allows the flow.
but you don't even know
So,
how to clear the blockages. Think about people
nope.
are trying to clear the blockages.
Yep. But it's really, I mean, a lot of people don't even know they have blockages. Like, I know I could rattle off a slew of them between money blockages, like in my heart, like, because I remember when my heart opened.
Oh my
Like,
god!
I remember.
It was
I
literally like it was literally like a crack. I was like, and I wasn't mad, but I was so like, excuse me, because I just knew my heart wasn't hardened.
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
Right.
I was like always loving on people and da da da, but I wasn't loving myself. So when I did it, I was like, when I like really got it, my heart, it felt like the Care Bear stare. Literally, my heart felt like it lit up, and it was like alive. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? I've never felt my heart feel like this before with so much love. It was so
I was
weird.
the straight tin man. I didn't even know. I was so mad.
I
I was like,
I look
excuse
back,
me,
right?
what? Excuse me?
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. She said I was
Not
a
believe it.
straight tin man.
I was.
But this also, too, like even the last part where it says, then indeed they must devote their energies, time, and lives towards this end. Like, I
Okay,
don't know, like this just for me,
that's
it
deep.
just it just hits because this is my life. Like the work that we're doing, again, not hammering nails, the inner work, evolving, loving on myself, showing up as the best version of myself, and it allows other people to do the same. This is my job in my life. I don't need like a job at a store, or this is my life. This is what I'm doing. I invest all my time into what I'm doing.
Yep.
We do it to like we literally do this together. Like
And
we are each
I don't even
other's
know how it
biggest
happened.
cheerleaders of
Yeah.
like
You just start
being
hacking.
our best selves.
Yeah. I mean, even being in even being in the like clubhouse every day. Like what?
Hmm.
Like if I put too much thought into that, I'm like, what was you doing?
Exactly. Yep. But you know what though? Honestly, like even now, as we've been doing like the prosperity challenge, we're
Mm-hmm.
on day 33 tomorrow, I think,
Mm-hmm.
33.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've shown up every day
Mm-hmm.
for the last 32 days
Mm-hmm.
to spend time together to read and then to meditate on what we heard from the reading. And
Mm-hmm.
then we sign off and journal. That's like unheard of for people. People don't do this shit. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, being the example, right, is so powerful
It
because
is.
I know that we inspire other people to want to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of what they're going to see happening in our lives, but
Mm-hmm.
it's literally because we're walking out like what God has for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody, like, I'm not saying you got to go be a preacher. I'm not saying you got to go do whatever. Whatever your purpose is,
Yeah. Whatever
when
your purpose
you
is.
walk in it, when you walk in your purpose, everything is a green light. Everything you're doing is a green
Everything.
light.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know that it's scary for people. There are a lot of people who get the call that they feel called to do something and walk a certain way, but maybe you're like afraid to, or maybe you're
Mm-hmm.
not quite sure. But if you just listen and then walk it out, it's all green lights
Mm-hmm.
because you're doing the work. You're doing like with love in your heart. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it any other way now. Like I used to be like, oh God, how could I ever do work like this for myself? And I was like, there's no way. And then I went back to like, slinging chicken nuggets thinking, oh, I'm just going to be a regular mom. And I can't be.
No.
I can't. I'm not regular. I never have been.
Because
And
also you're not trying to get nobody to like you. It's like this whole, it's like you don't
no.
even, it's like
I almost hope people don't, and I hope they like delete me. That's where I'm at now because I'm not for everyone, and I don't want to be. I want to be for me, and then the right people are going to gravitate to me. Like it took me 41 years to find you, and I'm okay with that. No, really, like it took, because that's when when I started being like my whole self, that was like the beacon.
Okay.
And then like, here come people and you like line up together and you're like, oh my God, like everybody's like this. True. Like, wow. But meanwhile, my whole life, I never found anybody that even talked like this.
Yeah.
But true. Now I have a plethora of people around me to bounce off of and like just to even like expand.
Yeah.
But it's because I lined up with myself. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't do that, I'd still be like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it's just a matter of really wanting to know what you're doing. I don't know. Like for me, it's I want to know what I'm doing in my life, but it comes through as us doing a podcast, as us being in clubhouse rooms. Like, like I know that I'm walking my purpose because it's all green lights.
It's all green lights, and it's also not dictated by outsources.
Nope.
Because think about all the things that happen could have if we were thinking in the same way we were before.
Yeah.
What somebody else is doing or saying could derail what you're supposed to be doing.
Yep. And like, it's like they're a little roadblock.
We're not branching out. We're branching out. This is what we're supposed to be doing as a collective. But even if they're not doing it, you still got to do what you need to do because maybe you still got to do it.
Well, this even when we left the room, when we broke away and decided to go on our merry way, that's when all the green lights started.
Yeah,
it was simple.
Nothing necessarily bad about being there. It's just that what is it?
We were expanding and we needed to find ourselves and find our own lane.
Yes.
And we weren't doing that. We were in a space that was hindering our growth. Mm-hmm. So like as we expanded out and we, shuffled our feet on to the next town, everything was a green light.
Right.
The podcast was a green light. The way we show up is a green light. We're on the clubhouse doing our thing with the prosperity book. Like everything's been a green light since we chose to walk our purpose. Like as much as helping people is a part of the purpose, it was the arena that we were helping. It was it wasn't do you know what I'm saying? Like at that point we were like stagnant. We weren't growing.
Because you reach a plateau. That's the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Everything was all purposeful.
Yes.
And then
for growth.
And then when you feel like it's a collective movement, and then it's not because somebody is, whoever it is, the energy of somebody still believing in a separate self kind of like thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Then you have to make a decision to still keep that collective mindset, because even if it is only a couple of people, or even if it is just you, you see what I'm saying? When you reach when your cup is full, and that's where it is, then you have to recognize that.
Exactly.
Because that was something that, it looked like it was the next step for all of us.
Right.
Right. But then maybe there was some differences, maybe there was some whatever, and that's fine. That's all too about what we're saying all today about relativity and all that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Now, sometimes people don't feel like they need to be transparent enough to say it, but energy is everything.
Yep.
You know, and sometimes you don't force your way in something when you could feel that it's a change happening, and that's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
But what I'm
feeling
saying is, if you still did not know yourself,
right
then that would make you maybe stay. And not saying that,
somewhere
that
too
being
long.
in the environment was even, it was beautiful, beautiful. But if something is nudging you to tell you to grow or go, then you must answer to the call. Is what I'm saying. You know, answer the call.
Well, that's exactly. And
Mhm.
when even being in spaces like as you're growing, like not everybody is going to resonate with where you're at.
Mhm.
Not everybody is going to not everybody's going to even appreciate who you are, because even like the same way that my family will never look at me for who I
Even
am.
your children.
Oh, please.
Like, come on. Your
And
significant of
listen,
your spouse or whoever the heck you think,
anybody.
whatever, please.
But to be able to, once you actually are like, all right, I'm choosing me, even if other people don't like it, that's when the green lights are like boop, boop, because you're walking in your purpose. Your purpose isn't for everybody, it's for you.
It's for you.
And like some people think that their purpose is your purpose. But like we've said before, like I'm my main character, you're your main character. We assist each other to grow.
Yeah.
But I'm not
I'm the
saying, all right,
supporting
well,
actor in your movie.
you're gonna be my support. You're gonna be my backup dancer. So you go do this, and I run the show. That's
No.
not it.
No, no, no.
It's to work together
Yeah.
for the greater good of people.
Yeah.
And what that looks like in certain places or families, friends, or whatever environment,
Hmm.
when you feel that it's not in alignment and you feel that it's not going how you're going, you owe it to yourself to remove yourself.
Yeah.
This way that you can get the green lights. Because
Hmm.
the minute you're not being true to you,
Hmm. It's a problem.
it's a problem. When you're choosing other people, their happiness over yours, that's a problem.
It's a problem.
You're making sure, oh, well, I don't want so and so to be mad at me.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That is.
Are you mad at you? You should
You
be.
should be able to have, and I feel like when you're choosing, you should be able to have the hard conversations too.
Oh,
You know what
absolutely.
I'm saying? Like you should be able
Absolutely.
to, like, if you want to go another way, then you should be able to have the liberty to say that you want to do that, and it
And it
still be
should be
love and
okay
right.
with everybody, because like it
Exactly.
goes back to the first law we read. It's your perception. So
Mm-hmm.
if you know your perception is saying, all right, this is what works for me,
Mm-hmm.
people should go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't want to do XYZ right now, but I
Mm-hmm.
love you. And that's it, because it's your perception of what's going on. It's not for anybody else to understand. It's not for anybody else to judge or anything. But people forget that sometimes, and that's sad. If everybody allowed each other to grow at their own pace, to expand at their own pace, and not be like, oh, well, why aren't you doing this? Like, everybody has their own path,
Yeah.
everybody has their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And always choose you if it feels out of alignment,
Mm-hmm.
because that's when, if you're out of alignment, you're, I feel like it's like you're at a stop sign, but you're not moving.
And then you start
And
acting out.
yeah, yes,
You start
yeah,
acting out, right?
you
And
know,
then you cannot have the conversations that need to be taking place or whatever. And then you start doing certain things that are undercutting, undermining, and not
other
cool, and it's
people.
messing up the energy and the flow of an environment.
Right,
And
right.
that speaks more volume than the words that you could have just spoke.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, communication is like
And that's even
huge.
like in a relationship. Like,
Oh my God, yeah.
you start
Especially,
acting different, start acting weird. What's going on? Like, do we
right,
need to talk? Oh
right,
no, nothing's going on. You're not telling the truth.
right. Nope.
You know. So then now, okay, I'm not gonna step in the ring with you. I'm not gonna contend with you. I'm not gonna have an argument with you. I'm gonna say whenever you're
Okay.
ready to talk.
Right. Yep.
But I'm gonna go over here.
I'm
Period. You know,
gonna go
and
enjoy
that's just it.
my peace.
Because Pete, I know we
Peace
gotta
is
wrap it up,
it.
but my thing is that's another thing. Once you experience peace,
There's nothing like it.
like no ma'am, no sir.
There's
I'm
nothing.
good. I'm cool.
Once you get a taste of it, peace is priceless.
It is.
And like I said, peace isn't, everything's not going to look the same for everybody. Like my
Mhm.
version of peace is different than other people's versions of peace. But once you really feel that in your heart, you're going to do everything you can to seek that out.
Mhm.
Even if it means losing people, walking away from situations, changing yourself, whatever you're going to have to do for you
Mhm.
to feel that peace, you're going to do it.
You're gonna do it.
I mean, I will never sacrifice my peace again,
Yeah.
ever, because it's just too beautiful,
It's
to be honest with you.
beautiful.
Like, going to bed at night with like a clear heart, it just hits different.
A clear mind.
I've gone to bed in tears, in misery, sadness, disgust. To go to bed in peace, man, listen, that's just,
It's the ultimate.
it is.
Yeah.
So I know we've been on a long time, but we could talk for hours.
Mhm.
Like, that is just the way it is. Because this is, I just want to say thank you to you for even doing this with me, because
No, thank you.
this is just so bomb. And I love that we can come on and talk like this. And I know that whoever listens to this, like, I know this helps people, because these are real life things that we've been through.
Real thing.
And it's stuff we're, still navigating life, but like
Mhm.
the things that we've learned so far, we want to share them with people, because if we knew this stuff years ago,
Yeah.
and not saying that you can shortcut a process, but even expanding your mind to know that there's something else that opens up doors that you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So just even having the awareness of it is like so important. So thank you guys, everybody that comes through and listens to this, and
yes, anybody
on the lives, everybody, because we really appreciate it, because without you guys, we could not even do this. Like, we couldn't even do it. So I want to thank everybody. And so next week we will be live together. I cannot wait. Oh my God, I cannot even wait. I'm so excited. Like, I talked about it today and I was like, I got so excited because
that's gonna be so cool.
Because our energy is bomb like this, but in person, I cannot wait. I cannot even wait. So we will be together next week, and I'm not really sure what we're going to talk about. I know we were talking about doing like a question and answer or something like that, but I think we might just wing it. Yeah. I don't know. We're going to see. We'll see what we're going to talk about. But I will love you guys. Something in mind, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll figure something out.
Okay.
So I love you guys, and we will see you next week, live and direct from Texas.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait. All right. We love you guys. Have a great night.
Love you guys. Bye.